This episode has been brought to you by Fornos Law Firm, devoted to optimizing your legal results at fornoslaw.com.
Welcome to Push Rim Life After Injury podcast for April 23rd, 2014, episode 40, Willpower. I'm Ray Pizarro.
I'm Richard Bow.
We want to thank our audience for being with us. These podcasts were created to talk about spinal cord injury related topics, disability resources, and also spotlight individuals that found ways to get past their challenges and are a great source of inspiration. On this episode, our friend Will MATAY will be sharing his story with us, as well as some great resources. And with that, we welcome Will to the show. Welcome, Will.
Well, hey, I want to say welcome to you guys. Thank you very much for having me here, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you again, bro.
Hey, for all you guys do out in the community, I certainly appreciate you.
Well, we always say it's a team effort, and amongst all the organizations out there, we benefit from each other of sharing what we can with especially the newly injured that are coming up and want to find answers or ways around their injuries and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, so with that, let's get some background on you. How did you become injured? And
back in May 2002, May 9th. I can even remember the time. It was about 1:30 in the afternoon. I could bet that you probably haven't heard of my injury. It's a rarity. I was a commercial diver underwater construction. I took a nitrogen bubble to the spine, basically an air bubble. I came out a solution from the bloodstream while I was at depth. I was on an easy money dive. It was about 119 feet. And I was going to go down there, take some measurements, show an engineer, can you see this? And end of the day, get out and make a lot of money. And it was good. Unbeknownst to me, I did my decompression stop at about 10 feet. As I got out of the water, after my stop, I took 3 steps, and it was literally like you see in the movies. I was down. I lost everything here down. It was like a switch. Someone just turned it off. All of the weight of my gear and me, it was all dead weight. I dropped down to the ground. The guys knew exactly what happened to me. They went ahead and tore my gear off, threw me in a decompression chamber, which we have on site. Basically, it simulates the pressure of water, but at the same time, you're in the dry atmosphere, and it's more of a controlled environment than putting you back down in the water. As soon as I got in the chamber, the bubble went back into solution. I got everything back. I was like, oh my God, wow, I just dodged a major bullet. Mm-hmm. I kind of knew what happened to me, not exactly knew where it hit or anything like that, but I knew it was major with the training I had and 9.5 years of doing it. Got into the chamber while I was resting and thinking, oh my God, everything's flashing in front of me. That I'm going to do a 5-hour trip in the chamber and I'll be fine. About an hour into treatment, I started getting numbness on the soles of my feet. I go, oh, here we go. It took quite a while. I was in the chamber for 7 hours. I came out paralyzed from the chest down. So I had quite a bit of time.
So mentally, how were you dealing with that? Did you have a lot of fear, a lot of roller coaster of emotions as you got feeling back? And then
exactly. The fear in the beginning of when I dropped was huge because I knew, wow, this is major. When I got into the decompression chamber, it was, I was, wow, elated. I was happy. Okay, This isn't so bad. I'll be all right. I can get through this. But being in the chamber and getting the soles of my feet and then 7 hours of thinking about it because it gradually crept up to where they finally said, okay, we're pulling you out. I was at the T6 level around the chest. Mm-hmm. Flew me to Long Beach Memorial Hospital. I was in the ER room and waiting around. I knew I should be in a decompression chamber. My wife shows up. I really wasn't aware that they called her. They kind of kept that as a secret to me, I guess. They didn't want to let me know. No one said, hey, Will, by the way, we called your wife. I was more thinking of, oh God, how am I going to tell her, How do you tell somebody that, So she ends up in the hospital with me alongside of me while I was in ER. And I said to her, I says, honey, go get a nurse or a doctor. I need to get in a chamber. I started getting numbness on the left hand, right arm, and started getting hard to breathe. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm thinking about here down. Now it's creeping up even higher. I'm like, oh, I got to get in the chamber. My wife found a nurse, and a nurse comes in and she says, "What's going on?" I told her, "Look at my chart. I know a doctor told me I should be in the chamber." She reads the chart, and her eyes pop open. She's like, "Oh my God." A couple of minutes later, she grabs people, and off to the chamber I go. Got into the decompression chamber, and as soon as I did, my respiratory, the distress, gone. So I started feeling better, breathing. Had the numbness in my hands, that stopped, but the paralysis from the T6 down, that was paralyzed. I was completely paralyzed. Following morning, they did an MRI and found out that there was 3 locations that I took a hit: C1, C2, T6, T7, L5S1.
Wow.
When I say a hit, basically a bubble gets caught. It creates a tear in the vein. The swelling kicked in. And the swelling is what pinched off my nerve. If the C1, C2 was the larger of the 3, I would have been a quadriplegic, but the T6, T7 was a larger tear. The C1, C2 we caught in time, I guess, by me getting back into the chamber and by it being an oxygen-rich environment, steroids and all that stuff. That didn't go into a larger swelling. So went into rehab hospital after that.
Yeah, how was that? How was rehab?
I went to Long Beach Memorial. They told me that I have to be there for 2 months. I'm like, no.
That's Ray's alma mater.
Oh, really?
I did 3 months there back in '93, so I don't know how long your stay was.
Oh, they told me it was a 2-month program.
Okay.
You know, you have to be here for 2 months. I'm like, really? No, I don't. I said, what do I got to do to not be here? And, you know, programs laid out so that we can be independent. And, you know, you have to do this, 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 this. And the way that I am, I was like, fine, bring it on. You know, I took it on as a challenge. I'm going to get out of here. I don't want to be here for 2 months.
Right.
So throughout the weeks, I went through the checklist. Check, check. I was pushing myself. I can do this. I can do that. Check. I want out. My rehabilitation doctor, Dr. Vasili, she was
Dr.
great.
Vasili.
She was my
we like
rehab
her.
doctor, and she's like, well, you want to get out? I'm like, absolutely. She goes, okay. Prove this, do this, and you can get out. I was out in 30 days. Unbeknownst to me, my wife wanted me there longer. And, you know, hindsight 2020, I probably should have stayed there longer. Because I, went into a small home, and all of a sudden, you all know that rehab starts when you get home.
And it's like a, how they say culture shock, right?
Oh, yeah.
You go home and there's no call button, no nurse button. You could be like, dig, I need help. No, you're on your own.
Yeah, and then, after 2 or 3 weeks, the wife has to go back to work too. So you lose that extra caregiver too. So, I'm sure there was tension between the wife and I and my daughter, who at the time was 9 years old. I was hardly ever home as a commercial diver. There wasn't much water in my backyard, so I had to travel.
Did you leave home in a wheelchair, or did you have braces at the time, or how?
I left the hospital in a wheelchair.
Okay.
I was in a wheelchair for 8 months before I can get up and do the walker and transition to the forearm crutches and all that stuff.
Good. When did you decide to go about doing that therapy? Was it at home, or did you come in as an outpatient to do that?
I came in as an outpatient at Casa Colina. I found out through workers' comp they were going to send me to Huntington Memorial, which was close to my house. I got into the rehab center at Huntington Memorial, and it was literally a small room with just dilapidated old equipment. And I'm looking at it, and I was like, oh my God, is this what they have for therapy? This isn't going to be good. So the therapist came in, and I said, is this the therapy center? And she goes, yeah. She goes, that's the equipment. And it's old school strings and pulleys on the wall, man, old school. I said, well, isn't there anything better than this? And she says, yeah, there's Casa Colina. I'm not supposed to tell you, but you might want to look into it. Off to Casa Colina I went, a couple of days later with the wife. And they had this big old facility.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And I'm
Casa
just
Colina
seeing,
is so nice.
so many people. And that was the old building back then in 2002. That's not the new area that they have now. But I saw,
Even that was nicely set up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
More options.
Plus, I saw other paras and other quads. It just wasn't
me
in this small room with a therapist, So I took therapy head on, man. I was like, I want 3 days a week, 4 days a week. I want whatever. And Dr. Vasili's like, if you can handle it and you progress, do it.
We'll give it to you.
Yeah, well, I did it for 5 years, guys, 3 days a week.
Good work. And now you could see how it's paying off, where you were able to be more mobile and have more independence, I'm sure.
And it hasn't stopped. Therapy doesn't stop.
Right.
We got to work out.
I think it's a
Absolutely.
lifestyle, because it's not like a diet or something temporary. Okay, I'm done. No, you have to incorporate it into the long-term goals that you might have in your life. And,
Absolutely.
And our body changes as we get older, so we have to learn how to make those slight adjustments.
That's a good analogy you just said about a diet. You get people that try different diets and they're on it for what, a week?
No.
A month?
Right.
3 months, and then all of a sudden you revert back. You and I do that, we know what happens. We lose the muscles, we lose everything quick.
Very
man.
fast.
So to say that my therapy was 5 years, that was, 3 days a week for, up to 4 days a week. But no, it still continues. I still do the gym, I still work out, and that's my therapy. Yeah, I'm not one-on-one with a therapist, but after doing it for 5 years with a therapist, I pretty much know what I got to do. And, when I need to help hey, can you help me move my leg this way or stretch me?
Now, do you remember, Will, what the first thing you've done to maybe start getting back into your recreational part of your life, or maybe just outings, meeting people? How was that for you?
Doing the therapy at Casa Colina, all that time, I get to meet a lot of people. And I'm an outgoing person. Mm-hmm. So I kind of right off the bat started to want to help people. And they didn't have anything at Casa Colina unofficially. If I wanted to be a mentor, I had to go through the official process, which means I got to wear their shirt, go to the board meetings, go to the medical meetings. I got to say what the person said. I got to, I didn't want to have nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. So the therapist kind of knew me, and they would say, hey, by the way, Will, we know this person. Can you talk to this person unofficially? So I started helping out that way. And as for recreational, yeah, man, you and I both know we could sit in a room, rock back and forth, and go, what the heck am I going to do?
Yes.
So I had a garage, a 2-car garage in the back, and I'm like, I want to do my cars again. I had a 68 Camaro back in 1998 prior to my injury, and I had a blast with that. And I thought, well, let me see what I can do. So my wife came home from work one day, and I'm like, honey, I'm buying a classic car, another Camaro. And she's like, what? So sure enough, a couple of weeks later, I had a Camaro in my garage, and there I am, like a salamander, man, crawling around on the ground with floor jack stands, and all of a sudden I'm finding out what I can still do without, my legs or whatever. And it actually blew up quite a bit into a really neat hobby that I had. I've done a lot of cars. And my cars have gone to Germany, Australia, New Zealand, Holland, all over the United States and the world. I've done probably 20 of the Camaros, 67, 8, and 9. Mm-hmm. Wow. I've done a 70 Chevelle. I've done Corvettes. I don't do Mustangs, I guess because I'm not a Ford guy. I buy, Mustangs and ride them for a little while or whatever for that matter, but I really don't work on them. But for the restorations, we're talking literally every nut and bolt is completely off the car. The frame is on the ground, and you take it into a whole process, and 5-6 months later, you're driving it, and people look at you and they're like, oh, yeah, who did your car? And you're like, no, I did my car. No, not really. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, oh, yeah, really. Who put the engine in and transmission? I did.
I do my work.
Yeah, and they can't comprehend that, man.
They can't really picture a guy with challenges to be able to crawl under there and take care of business like he did.
Yank yourself up to an engine lift or whatever and throw yourself into an engine compartment, and no one's looking, and I'm sure it looks silly, but I'm getting it done.
Yeah, in a weird way, when you have a traumatic injury like that, you tend to find things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
Right.
Yeah,
and you got to figure a way to do it. There is no one around, man.
And the sense of accomplishment you get, I remember when I first put my shirt on by myself in the hospital, I was like, oh, God, I got to change the shirt. It's stained. I dropped my lunch on it and no one's around. And then you put it on, you're like, whoa, okay, it's halfway up your back, but you got most of it on. And you're like, okay, I could work from here on. You could work, build from it.
What about the first time I sat up in a bed? I wasn't supposed to without a therapist around, but, 2 o'clock in the morning when you're awake because you got all this stuff going through your mind. I'm going to sit up.
You guys were way more advanced than me. The first thing I did was eat an In-N-Out burger, animal style.
Really?
Double. It's my first meal off
No
of life
way.
support. Yeah.
Wow.
Right after that, the speech therapist came in and said, you can eat applesauce now.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay.
Yeah. But you wanted that animal style
Oh,
double.
dude. Dreaming about that.
I wanted my Starbucks, you know.
Yeah.
And the company I was working for, they would come in every morning with my Starbucks. Funny story to that is after they found out about 3 weeks while I was in the hospital that there's no lawsuit because it's workers' comp.
Oh, yeah.
My Starbucks stopped. I didn't see them anymore. I didn't get my Starbucks, but yeah, you know, when you do that first accomplishment, my first accomplishment was sitting up on the side of the bed by myself. I fell before that, you know, and I was like, oh, do I push the button?
Right.
I figured, you know, I crawled back up on the bed. I'm like, oh,
Give it another try.
yeah. And I did, and if I fell, okay, I knew I
Yeah.
could get myself back up on the bed.
Yeah, I think
You know?
fear holds a lot of people back. You know, if you're going to do something early on in your injury, spotters go a long way, you know,
Well,
when you're in
yeah.
therapy and like, all right, spot me. And then once I feel comfortable doing it 10, 20 times, then maybe I could do it on my own one day.
Yeah, of course I did it in therapy, you know,
Right.
with a therapist. So yeah, but I don't know, it was essential of accomplishment of me doing it myself, you know. And I slept good that night because I accomplished that first thing, you know. So
Yeah.
the classic cars and you know, really to answer your question, what got me back into it was myself. I didn't want to be unmotivated. I didn't want to, you know, just sit around and do nothing. So I got to create something. or
So
else,
it
you
was
know.
that inner will.
Yeah, it was my willpower, dude. It
That's
really
right.
was. I mean, it sounds corny, but
It
I'm
does.
sorry. It really was the willpower of saying no.
Willing yourself.
And okay, I may not do it like I used to do it, but come on, man, I got to figure out a way. And if I do need help, let me call my brother-in-law or my cousin or whatever. And at first I felt bad, you know, and then I realized, well, it ain't so bad to ask for help, you know. And now, don't matter if I know I can't do it. And hey, can you help me, Ray? You know,
Right.
Richard, can you help me?
Yeah.
You know, there's no embarrassment, no pity, nothing.
No,
you know,
no.
it's like, hey, I gotta help. You know, someone's gotta help me.
So as far as now, I know you're into a lot of activities with Triumph.
Yeah.
And would you like to expound on some of
Sure,
those?
sure. About a year and a half ago, I was going to start my own nonprofit organization, and with a goal of primarily supplying medical equipment to people that are in need, because we all know that the insurance companies cut people off really quick, and they'll buy a $20,000 power wheelchair, but they won't pay for a $200 ramp to get into the house because
Right.
they don't have to, you know. And I saw more and more people that needed that small pieces of equipment that, you know, they couldn't afford. They can't figure out how to get it. I mean, who knows how to get a foldable, collapsible aluminum ramp for a 6-inch threshold? Where do you find that information, you know? So I started looking into a nonprofit. I used to own a company with my wife, and that was a classified ads for classic cars, with the thought of donating the money to nonprofit organizations, whatever I got from the classified ads. We would take it and donate a portion of that. Well, as soon as I got big in that company, we started getting onto Google first page, and we were just below another big company. I got cease to assist letters that they're going to sue me and kill off my future generations and do whatever because I put one word was similar to their word within my web address. And you know, they got the corporate lawyers that they can outspend me a million to one. You know?
Right.
So I couldn't fight it. So we gave it up. And with the knowledge of having that corporation, I was going to do a nonprofit organization. Then I looked into it and I go, you know, let me step back from this. Why not go into an existing organization who's already well established? And, you know, there's a lot of them out there.
Right.
And I ran into Andrew and saw what Triumph does and asked him, hey, do you need a hand? And, you know, he was reluctant at first because like everyone else, you know, people promise a lot of things, but do they follow through? And he said the same thing to me. Will, a lot of people want to help the organization, but the biggest problem I have is people don't help because they got to work full time, or whatever the matter is. I said, no, you don't get it, Andrew. I'm serious. I want to help. What do you need me to do? He started giving me small tasks of helping him out, and I did that. And then I came up with an idea because out of the care baskets that they have, there's a lot of flyers and brochures that are a part of the care basket. I wanted to take it to a little different level and more modern, because nowadays everybody's got their laptop or their iPad when they're in the hospital. That's one of the first things they have is with their smartphone, or they want information.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they're looking up about paraplegic or quadriplegic or whatever. So I went ahead and said to Andrew, hey, I got an idea. Let's take information and put it on not only a wristband, but make it a flash drive wristband.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that came up, and we created it, and now we have over 30 different categories on there. It covers everything from accessible vans to wheelchair suppliers to adaptive sporting events, you name it. It's pretty much on there.
Awesome.
And
Yeah. I've seen. You gave me one. It's pretty comprehensive.
in fact, you guys are on there.
Oh yeah, that's right. We are on there.
You go to support groups. Push Rim's on there.
Social networks.
Exactly. It's definitely on there because, look, it's important. We're not going to be biased and everything's about Triumph. That's not what this is about.
No.
You have a disabled community with resources like Push Rim or Triumph or
Exactly.
CORE or whomever.
Mm-hmm.
If they're really a good organization and they're going to help out the disabled community, we want them on there.
Right.
The more information, the merrier. It's all about you choosing, what you want to go after. So if they're an organization where they're for profit, well, we actually created an advertisement aspect now to get some income for Triumph Foundation. We are a nonprofit, so we have to have funds
To run it properly,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, that
Yes.
it takes money to do all of
It
this. And people out there sometimes don't get it. That where does a $2,000 grant come from, or a $20,000 van? We have to, as Triumph, and we have to raise that money. So part of it is with the flash drives.
No, that's great. I mean, that's the thing about technology these days. We're living in super awesome times where we have information, overload of information at a click of a button, and be able to tap into invaluable resources that could change people's lives. Especially us, where we go ahead and get hurt, and we feel foreign, like foreigners in our bodies, and that sense of isolation, right? Like, it only happened to me. What am I going to do with myself?
Right.
Yeah.
There's no one else in the world like me.
Especially right before you get to rehab.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What am I going to do? I'm never gonna do anything. Right.
Right.
I didn't have anyone roll up to me, man. I didn't have Andrew roll up or anyone roll up at Long Beach Memorial.
Right.
And I saw that as a missing aspect. And then when I saw Triumph, they do that. I really wanted to be a part of it.
Little void in our lives that we needed to tap into, and they're nuggets of information too. And our community is a tight knit one also, and we rely on each other to help each other out and move along with our lives. So
hey, it is a small world. Look how many times we run into each other, and you're like, oh, you're here, or oh, you're here.
Yeah. No, you're everywhere. Dude.
I know.
Everywhere I show up, there's
I was
Will.
just going to say, but you're there too. So, I mean, it's the same thing where we literally run into each other, and we didn't plan on any of that event, where we coordinated. It's like, hey, what's up, Richard Ray? Oh my God.
our circles, we run into our circles all the
It's
time.
a peculiar fraternity.
Isn't it?
That's what it is.
Isn't it? And like you said, it's a small world. So names go a far way, within our community. And I'm not trying to make a name for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I really just want Triumph, Triumph to expand larger, take with Andrew and the board and Triumph members, because, all of you guys are members one way or another, to let's broaden our horizon.
Right.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job. I mean, I think it's so nice to. That's one of the reasons Rich and I wanted to have you on, to get to know Will and his story, because maybe a lot of people don't know your story, or just the trials and tribulations that you went through to get where you're at today. and that helps everyone. Not people that just are in chairs or have different disabilities, but even people walking around. They see that and see how you got past it, and now what you're doing. Man, you get so much inspiration out of that. So
Well, I appreciate
we thank you
it.
for sharing that, Will. I mean, shoot, we need an hour with you at least, man, because we got so much other cool stuff we want to talk about. Maybe some hand cycling clinics and all the hand cycling you're starting to do with our friend Dominic.
Even some of the advocacy work you do.
Well, with the hand cycling with Dominic, I went to the Wheelchair Sports Fest or sports event, which was last year for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted a hand cycle. I'm like, I want to get on one. I'm like, Andrew, who do I go to? And he went, Dominic. So I rolled over to Dominic. Dominic, my name is Will MATAY. I want to get on one of these cycles. He's like, oh, all right. What's your abilities, disabilities? He explained to me on the different bikes and all that stuff. And he got me into one. And, dude, I was running around that parking lot like a
now you're doing
10-year-old
marathons
kid.
and stuff.
Yeah, and it rolled into,
Crazy.
literally, that rolled into me getting a bike. And I got my own hand cycle, and mine is on-road, off-road. So we took it to the next step. I say we, Dominic and I, because he's got that crazy off-road wheelchair that he has.
Yeah.
So we took that and my hand cycle, and then a friend of ours, Paul Aaron Rogers, we went out to Gorman. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the dirt bikes and the ATVs that go on out there.
Oh.
Well, we went ahead with 2 4-wheel drive trucks, the hand cycle, my hand cycle, Dominic's wheelchair, and we went out there, and we're literally on top of these hills. Threw the bike out, threw the wheelchair out, and I'm in a wheelchair. Dominic's in his normal day-to-day wheelchair, and we got dirt bike guys coming up to us, and they're just stopping, and ATVs, and they're like, are you guys about to do what we think you're about to do? And we're like, well, yeah. And Dominic's transferring, I'm transferring. And they're like, no.
I love it.
We're like, yeah.
I love it.
So there, everybody comes to a stop,
Right.
and we're bombing these hills, man. Dominic's rolling and doing his stunt rolls.
Right.
And it was crazy.
I know your competitive juices were going at that time, right? They were like, okay.
They were. I mean, we planned it out. It may look like, some people see a video or a photo and they think we're doing stupid things.
Right.
No, dude, we had our gear on.
Right.
We had our plan. We had a truck down there in case of emergency.
Safety.
It was safety first. From there, Dominic says, hey, I got an idea. I'm like, what? What next? And he's like, well, Zion Half Marathon in Utah. Like, come on, come out, and do it. And, okay. So I was training for it on my own and did some training with Dominic at the hand cycling clinics that Triumph has every month.
Right.
And sure enough, I find myself at 7 a.m., pitch black, dark in Utah. Mountains all the way around us, and it's Dominic and I on the start line. I'm like, oh, man, dude. Countdown 5, horn goes off, and him and I go. And the sun started coming up over the peaks of the mountains, dude, and you're 2 feet off the ground. And
Whoa.
it's just the two of us, and we're cruising, and there's just 8,000-foot mountains all the way around us.
Whoa.
It was an awe-inspiring moment, man. It was the coolest thing. Until you came around that one bend, and there's that 2-mile incline.
Yeah.
I got to that incline. I wanted to kill
That's a
Dominic.
negative.
Yeah.
Man.
What did he get myself into?
Yeah, well, he was waiting for me. He overpowered me definitely on that. He's certainly built and conditioned a lot, but he waited at the top of the peak, and I'm like, oh, my God. So I stopped, and there's a group of people there at the watering hole, and it's young kids, and I'm like, listen, kids, I want to give you a lesson. Choose your friends wisely.
That's right.
Because this guy got me
He
here.
will run you to the ground.
He got me here just on a whim of, hey, can I try a hand cycle? And all of a sudden, I'm doing a marathon. Choose them wisely.
That's a negative.
No, it's not.
Yeah, but you know what? I completed it. Dominic completed it. It was awesome, man.
Well, dude, you got to come back down the road again. Once we get you more of these cool, experiences and all these sports stuff that you're into.
Yeah.
I mean, as we're wrapping down in time right now, but
okay.
You want to actually share about the sports wheelchair sports day that's coming up?
We've got it coming up on Memorial Day. It's the 24th and 25th. We expanded to 2 days instead of one. It's the Wheelchair Sports Festival. It's at the Santa Clarita Sports Complex. come on out. We're going to have every type of wheelchair for sport and events, from quad rugby, basketball, hockey, hand cycles. It's going to be a pretty large event this year. We had to take it from one day to make it to 2 days because of all the people that have been coming.
So check it out, guys. Make sure you look it up on their Facebook page or on Pushrim, on our events page. We have their information there if you guys are interested in joining. And also, any places they could look you up and contact you directly?
Yeah, they can contact me through Facebook.
Okay.
Link either through Triumph Foundation or through you guys, and through friends and all that stuff. Anytime anybody needs any help with information or anything like that, if they contact me, chances are we're going to find the answer, and that's through our network. That's through all of us.
That's right.
Right, yeah, because he's also on Pushrim, where you can find all of us at www.pushrim.com.
That's right.
And also on our YouTube channel, Club Pushrim, one word, and that's how you find us.
Yeah, we're also on iTunes. If you any iTunes listeners out there want to put us on your phones to go and get a workout on, you can do that. We want to thank Will once again for being with us. Thanks a lot for all that great work you do and all the your inspirational story you were able to share with our community. And hopefully we can have you back at a future date with any cool developments.
Well, hey, thanks to both of you, man.
Yeah, okay, thanks, and we'll see all of you later.
Yeah, take care and catch you later. Goodbye.